Welcome to Monkey Off My Backlog, the podcast where we exercise our pop culture demons by tackling our media to-do lists 1 week at a time. I'm your host, Sam Morris, and with me are my co-hosts, Andy Bowman.
Hello!
And Tessa Suela.
Hey.
This week, Andy gets spicy and checks a sci-fi classic off his list. Tessa travels into the Expanse, and I enter an author's horrific hellscape. And no, I did not read a Stephen King novel. So, I wanted to start off this week by talking about a very serious issue that affects many of us today. Netflix cheating. I live with somebody who is a repeat Netflix cheater.
It's true.
She's the worst. So I want to talk about that for a little bit today and how that hinders our pop culture to-do list checking off.
You all didn't know this, but you are actually privy to like a counseling session that's happening right now about Netflix cheating.
Hold on, let me get the the German Freud glasses and put them on.
I'm actually lying down on the couch right now.
So what would we define Netflix cheating as then, Sam?
It's the thing you do when I'm not here and I have said, don't watch this without me, and then you do it.
What is Netflix cheating for you, Andy? Is this a problem in your house?
Okay. This is not a problem in my house. It has been a problem in prior relationships I've had. I know exactly where Sam is coming from. Right? I completely 100% know where Sam is coming from. Unfortunately, I have kind of the exact opposite problem in my house, and we'll discuss that in a second.
I see. So, I have a terrible memory, which if you haven't picked up on yet, I do. Tessa, why don't you share some of the things that you have?
Oh, you want me to self-incriminate now?
Yes, I would like you to do that.
Okay, I will share some of the things that I have supposedly Netflix cheated on. However, I would also like to follow it up by explaining why I think Netflix cheating happens, or at least why I have done it unintentionally in the past. So, some of the things I've Netflix cheated. I started watching Master of None. The second season.
Oh, that's
without
right.
you.
The time you accidentally watched more episodes than
I remember
you meant
that. And I would like to point out this only happens when he's out of town. It never has happened while he's in the house. So Master of None. What else have I Netflix cheated on you? I did Always Be My Maybe, which you were really mad about because Keanu Reeves is in it.
Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves is mine.
And
there have been more.
Did I do Glow too?
No, Glow wasn't it. Suffice it to say,
anyway,
you know what you did.
Point is, I have done it before. I'd like to talk a little bit about why I think it happens. Why I think it happens actually has to do with backlogs quite a bit. If you live in a house with another person who theoretically you love and want to watch things with,
in theory,
there is a problem, I think, sometimes with either you both want to watch a lot of the same things, and that ends up causing more of a backlog because you don't have as much time to get through all of the things because you have to wait until both of you are ready to watch it. Or you aren't interested in some of the same things and you can't find time to watch the thing that you're interested in because that other person wants to watch something else. So I think that sometimes Netflix cheating happens because you're in an emotional place where you want to watch that second season of that show that you know is comforting or what have you, or you're really excited about, but you haven't been able to watch it for several months because someone doesn't want to watch it before watching some other show or movie. So I think that part of it actually does have to do with backlog. Someone in the relationship prioritizes whatever it is they're watching higher than the person that they're with. The person that they're with prioritizes it lower on the list, I think, in some cases.
Okay. Now, Sam, how does that make you feel?
Well,
use I feel statements.
we'll it makes me feel sad. because she actually really lays out the case. I think that's why a lot of it happens. I always think of, I mean, it's used as a plot on television shows quite a bit. How I Met Your Mother has an episode about Downton Abbey, or whatever it is they call it.
Whatever their Downton Abbey version is.
About it. I know I've seen it in at least a few other shows. You know, it's really interesting. So Tessa's going to talk about The Expanse later. I really want to watch The Expanse. I feel like it's even been on my radar for longer than it has yours. But I didn't have time to watch it with you for this, so I've just not seen a show, and it hurts. It hurts. It's not Netflix cheating, but it still doesn't feel good.
Well, and I think that's how you have to combat Netflix cheating, is by agreeing that you're both not going to necessarily agreeing which shows are really important for you to see at the same time, and then which ones are okay to watch on your own, because there is just a finite amount of time, and if you just wait to always watch it with someone, you might not necessarily get there when you want to.
Okay. Now, I actually do have a solution to Netflix cheating.
Let's hear it.
Okay. This is very simple. All right. You guys get 2 shows that you determine you will not watch without the other person. Everything else is fair game.
2 shows.
I like that. That's
Hold
strict.
On. Let me go to the TV show app. Let me see. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, you only get 2.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9. So what I'm saying is they're like on the app of shows that my app list of shows that we want to watch in the near future. There are, I just counted 9 that we want to watch together. That's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, yeah. So I like this idea of maybe putting a cap on it. Like, okay, you can reserve this many.
Right. Now here's the other thing, okay? Basic decency dictates two more stipulations to this. One, when either of you are going to sit down and watch a show that's not in those 2, you just give the, hey, sweetie, hey, Pookie, I'm about to watch The Expanse. Would you like to join me? And if they say, and if your significant other just goes, oh, I'm busy right now, but I really do want to watch this, all you do is say, okay, well, a timer starts now. And that timer is just a couple days. And if Sam, if you want to watch The Expanse and Tessa doesn't get back to you in those few days, you just watch it.
I like it. Giving a deadline. This is the deadline.
Right. This is the thing, right? Basic, just basic human decency will dictate, well, I'm going to let her know that I'm about to watch this, give her the option to watch it together. But if it's not important enough on her list that she can make the time to do it, to watch it in the next, I'd say 48 hours, right? Just then it's not important enough to her. It's not high enough on her list to warrant waiting for her.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah. And also never watch anything with Keanu Reeves without me.
Okay, first of all, I really didn't know Keanu Reeves was in that movie.
You could have turned it off.
That's on me.
You could have stopped then and there.
I just imagine Tessa screaming, no!
You should have said no.
You should have said no. Should have thought twice before you let it all go.
Yep, that's right. So Andy, how did you come across this sage wisdom? How have you learned?
I have just learned because I have the exact opposite problem, where me and my lovely wife, she does not tell me that she doesn't want to watch stuff with me. So I will assume that she wants to watch stuff with me, and I will prevent my own self from watching or enjoying something for a year, maybe 2 years before I just go, okay, Sarah, I really, really, really would like to watch this movie. I would really, really like to watch Green Book. And she goes, "Oh, well, you can go ahead and watch it. I don't really want to watch it."
You can go ahead and watch that.
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
could just forget it ever existed.
Yeah, no, I don't actually have any desire to watch Green Book. But the point I'm making is that I put these things on a list and don't experience them because I'm waiting for Sarah to be in the right mood, and in reality, it's just not as high on her list. Now, I never really like talked to her about this or said anything about, right? It's my fault for not communicating with her that, oh, this horror movie that I'm saving it because I've heard it was good. I think she'll like it. But I didn't ask her, "Hey, do you want to watch it?" So, on my Plex server, I have an entire playlist of movies Sarah doesn't want to watch.
I feel like this is the kind of problem that only people who are really into pop culture have, which is great if you're listening to this because you have that problem too, probably. I don't know. I feel better now. Does everybody else feel better?
Do you feel like you exorcised this pop culture demon?
Sure, let's say. All right. Good talk. All right. I'm going to throw it over to Andy now because you're going to tell us about Dune. You read Dune, one of Tessa's favorite books, so I'm sure she'll have things to say. But tell us about Dune.
Okay, well, first of all, Dune was very dry.
Well, it is on a desert planet.
All right. So Dune has been one of these books. I might be giving too much of a peek behind my own personal habits, but it's been what I call a bathroom book. I have had it sitting on my toilet at various points in time in my life, and every once in a while, I forget to bring my phone into the bathroom, and I will try to read Dune. I will try to start and hope that it hooks me. It has failed so many times to hook me, probably since I was like 15. Dune has been one of these things that just has never hooked me, right? I've forced myself to try. I was in a relationship with somebody who very, very much loved Dune and tried to get me to read it. Not Tessa, Sam, you don't have to worry. I just have not been able to crack this book. I haven't been able to get myself there, and I decided, early on, we really wanted to make the point that we are going to be covering a bunch of different kinds of culture, a bunch of different things that can be on your backlog, right? And I was like, I'm going to do it. I am going to read Dune. I am going to force myself to get through this. So at the very least, I can say I have finally done it. All you sci-fi nerds that I know who've tried to get me to read Dune can finally get off my back, right? This is not just the monkey of Dune. This is the monkey of every well-read person that I respect also being on my back about this.
That's a lot of monkey on your back.
It's a lot of pressure, man.
Yeah. And it's a dense book. It is a dense book, and I am happy to say, for people who know my gaming habits, I really like the Dark Souls games, the Souls-like, which are known for their crushing difficulty. And it's this thing where you keep pounding your head into a concrete wall, and eventually you break through that wall. And much like something finally clicking for you with one thing, Dune finally clicked for me.
So let me ask you, what is Dune about? Like, can you sum it up? Like, I'm actually really interested in somebody who's just read it fresh. Can you sum it up in as few words as possible? Because if you talk to Tessa about it, she'll sum it up in 5 minutes.
Dune is about a family of royalty coming to a new imperialistic planet and the trials and tribulations that come with that, and the fact that their child might be a messiah.
Good times. You don't look like you're about to explode, Tessa.
Oh, I'm
Is that
screaming inside right now. It's
Okay.
fine. It's
So-
fine. No, actually, that was actually a fairly good. That's a pretty good pitching of the premise because you can't really get into a lot more detail without. I don't know if you could really get into more detail without going down some
And-
rabbit holes.
and
And I
British
can't get into
musicians-
detail because I don't know.
yeah.
And British musician Sting shows up at some point. Is that correct?
That's just in the David Lynch adaptation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but Sting is going to be played by Timothy Chalamet in the new movie. Is that
No,
correct?
no, you don't know this at all. No.
I read Dune many years ago. I actually a student brought it to class one day and said, "Here, you need to read this." And you can't
say no to a
can't say no to
student.
that. So I read it, but it's been many years. Go ahead.
I mean, it's basically just politics in space would be my current where I am in the book, because this is a dense book. Have I mentioned that it's a difficult read?
How dense is it? That dense.
Okay. I spend all my day reading, scholarly articles for my program, my graduate program. I feel that there is an economy of word in Dune, that every single word is important to read, is important to absorb and to live with for a little bit. Like, this is a book you do not devour in a week, or devour in like a short weekend or something. This is a book you kind of have to live with, I think, and that's one of the things about it, is the world building in this is so good that you feel like you're kind of a part of this world. It's a fascinating book. I it's just so hard to recommend because it's a rough introduction. The author, Frank Herbert, felt very okay using a ton of different words that people don't know, because this is a fantasy world, and that's part of the thing, is you just use these words, and while context clues can help, it's kind of hard to put new words and titles and all these different things into my mental vocabulary as I'm reading it. So I keep going, okay, this is the character's name is one thing, but then they refer to him as another thing, and it goes back and forth, and eventually it clicks. Eventually you start remembering the character, all the different things that the characters can be called. It clicks, but this is weird. And also, I always thought Dune was more fantasy than sci-fi, and I'm not sure I'm wrong.
So where would you? So now that you mention it, what's your point of comparison? If what sci-fi or fantasy do you think that Dune stands alongside?
Ooh, sci-fi or fantasy it stands alongside. I mean, so a basic premise with the world of Dune is that it clearly takes place millions of years in the future. And at that point, taking place so far into the future, there's this thing where some technologies or even human mutations can feel kind of like magic, and that's why I'm having a difficulty, going over whether this is sci-fi or not. There are some strands of sci-fi in it, but it feels very much fantasy to me.
Well, and the technology is very limited for a sci-fi novel,
right,
as
and that-
well, because and this is the part of the problem, I think, is that Herbert doesn't really believe in exposition, like, at all.
No.
And so, which, I mean, is good in some ways for world building, but in other ways can be really difficult to just dive straight into. But the technology that exists in the universe of Dune is very limited because they don't trust technology. They don't trust anything that could become like artificial intelligence.
Right. And they kind of let you know that early on, that at one point man was stupid enough to rely on computers. We don't do that anymore. We can just do the math ourselves.
Right. And you do, like you said, there is like things that seem magical. Like there's a whole order of sisters that's introduced at the beginning, which is one of my favorite parts of Dune, the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and they're definitely presented as being magical beings.
Right. But they are also maybe not quite one of the things that I really am enjoying so far, and this is so early on in the book, I'm like 200 pages in, so but it's just there's hints that this sisterhood they have a lot of prophecies, but there's hints that they've been specifically putting seeds of prophecies, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, knowing that eventually, just knowing the general patterns of humanity, this will come true, and we
Yeah,
can guide it towards coming true.
they're playing like 8-dimensional chess in
Yeah,
that book.
yeah. So it's just fascinating to read. I am enjoying this on a level I don't think I've enjoyed a book on, especially a book with a. I mean, this feels like a book that's from the '60s. There's this, and maybe you guys can really comment on this. Like a narrator that can jump in the heads of characters mid scene, right? That tells us exactly what characters are thinking, and then goes to another character and gives us that character's inner thoughts within the same scene. And I'm used to, like a Game of Thrones or any other modern fantasy where it's a chapter is that character's POV, and you stick within the head of that character.
So it's funny as you're describing this, I think I realized something, and I'm gonna ask Tessa this question. So it seems like when you were describing Dune earlier, I was reminded of something. So Tessa loves Russian literature. Is that why you love Dune?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think Dune is quite as bleak as Crime and Punishment.
Well, it's not so much bleak. It's the writings.
Yeah,
it's some of the writing stuff.
It's sort of the layering and the complexity, and there's like a lot of symbolism, but it's not like a literary. Like it's as close to a literary text as you can get without being a literary text.
Right.
But yeah, like you're right about the POV. Like he definitely has an omniscient narrator.
Right. It's just not something I run into very often. I do have to say the density and just the quality of writing in this, I have to compare it to something like Name of the Wind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is from my never I mean I'm not as deeply immersed in what literature is, as you guys are, but I consider Name of the Wind to be literature.
It's good stuff, for sure.
I consider it to be just like of the highest quality that we can get in like contemporary fiction.
The last novella, the one that's written from the girl's perspective.
Yeah.
That one that one's kind of on a different level. I think that one especially is what you're saying true.
Are you being reminded of other sci-fi or fantasy writers that have come after Herbert at all?
Well, not after, but I'm being reminded of the Foundation series by Asimov.
Yeah, there's a very similar kind of bent, I think.
Right.
I think that was just kind of a style of writing in sci-fi.
Right. It's looking at these cultures millennia into the future. Instead, in modern sci-fi, I think is more interested in 100, 200 years in the future.
Right. Well, because we see the catastrophes happening a lot sooner.
Right. Overall, I recommend this. I think it's worth bumping your head against that brick wall and when to click with you, because I'm not going to be able to put this down over the next probably week and a half or so that I need to finish this. The story of Atreides is very, very interesting, and I just love this world and all these new customs, and a good political intrigue story will always get me interested.
So what you're saying is if people have not read Dune yet, they should not fear reading it?
Right. Fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer. Gosh, I love Dune. I want to go read it again right now.
All right. Well, Tessa, you get your chance to talk about a different sci-fi. What did you watch this week?
So I watched the first season of The Expanse, which is a sci-fi television show based on the series by James S.A. Corey. who I actually hadn't read. I have not read this series, so I can't really speak to it as an adaptation. I know the first season is based on the first book in this series, which is called Leviathan Wakes, which is the name of the last episode in the first season. It was originally on SyFy. It premiered in 2015. They had 3 seasons on SyFy. It is now on Amazon. I think they've only had 1 season on Amazon. There's 4 total. Each season is about between 10 and 14 episodes. They're about hour long, 40 minutes to an hour long. I feel like that information is important for some people who are looking to take stuff off of their backlog. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a show that had been on my radar for a while. A lot of people had recommended it to me, especially sci-fi people. I'd heard a lot about the production value, especially, and how for a show that has a very low budget, it was doing a lot of really, really cool things with that budget. I think the reason it took me so long to get to this was, 1, accessibility. When it was on SyFy, it was a little harder to track down. And 2, some of the people who recommended it to me, I will not name names,
They're probably listening to this podcast.
Are really hard science fiction fans, and I love science fiction. I'm writing a dissertation about science fiction. I'm a huge science fiction nerd. However, hard sci-fi is not really my particular cup of tea as a subgenre. And so I think I was also a little afraid that this was going to be hard sci-fi, in the vein of like Robert Heinlein or someone like that. It's not. It is definitely a lot more realistic than some sci-fi that's on television right now, but it's definitely not. It's not interested in telling you all of the science and math behind why stuff happens. So that was kind of a relief once I started watching it and realizing that was the case.
Okay. Interesting. What is this show about? Because it's been on my list too. This is something I want to watch.
Oh, so I'm the only one who's seen it.
Yeah.
So far. Okay, cool.
Yeah, remember? We talked about it before.
Well, right. Okay. So The Expanse takes us to a future where Earth has colonized the moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Earth and Mars are locked in a cold war with the people who live in the asteroid belt. They're called Belters, caught in the middle of this Cold War. The first season follows a few anti-heroes in sort of a multi-strand narrative. A police detective, Josephus Miller, who's played by Thomas Jane, who I did not know was involved in this before I started watching it. A UN Security Council leader, Christian Avasarala, who's played by Shohreh Aghdashloo, and a crew of a space freighter led by James Holden, who's played by Stephen Strait. And there's a lot of other actors. This is definitely an ensemble show, more than it is a lead show, but those are the 3 that I really wanted to mention here. But basically, it's a multi-strand narrative where you're following all these different narratives that start throughout the season coming closer and closer together. All these people start to put together pieces of a conspiracy that threaten the status quo and possibly the safety of the universe. So first I wanted to mention, when talking about Thomas Jane's character, Miller, with the recent stuff that's been happening, there's been a lot of calls for the downplaying of cops in television. I do want to mention this is not a cop show. He does play a police detective on a space station in the asteroid belt, but it's definitely not a show that valorizes cops or valorizes him to a certain extent. Like I said, all of these characters are anti-heroes. So he's definitely not someone that's presented, as a good cop in the way that people are kind of concerned about. But yeah, it's a really, really fascinating story because you get all these different perspectives on this universe that basically exists in a dystopian state of everyone holding a gun to another person's head. Earth and Mars hate each other. They're sort of using the Belters as proxies to fight their war, but they're also, all of the resources have been exhausted on Earth, and Mars, of course, does not have very much natural resources, so they're also relying on the ice that the Belters harvest for water. And so there's a lot of stuff about exploitation. There's a lot of stuff about environmental overmining and overuse of resources. There's a lot of stuff about how you systemically oppress someone, so that way they'll work for you and they'll do things for you.
Wait, so I can learn how to systemically oppress people?
I don't know if you can learn it. I think it's just like telling us how people do it.
It'd be really great if this show is a tutorial.
Yeah. It's not like a step-by-step how to be a fascist or anything. But like it's really interesting because there's also not really like a central villain. I mean, there isn't one yet. I don't know. I've only watched the first season. But it's more like just a set of people who don't really care about anyone else. And so it's just a really fascinating show that looks at all of these sort of issues through the lens of sort of a futuristic look. The main message of The Expanse seems to be that leaving Earth won't solve our problems, we'll just bring them with us, which I think is always a really interesting take for sci-fi.
Okay, now a question here, because you mentioned early that you were told that this has very good production values, and when I think Sci-Fi Channel, I think Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
Yeah, I once heard all the shows on Sci-Fi, including The Expanse and Winona Earp, as the best TV that you can get made in Canada for $12 an episode.
Yeah, they do not have a good budget, but man, this show does so much with their budget, because I am very used to sci-fi being not, like you said, they're not the greatest shows when it comes to production value, but they do so many great things. It is an absolutely beautiful show to watch. The stuff that they do, they use real sets. They designed all of the interiors of the ships. They actually built them. They built the inside of the space stations as well. So all the interiors are real. These are not actors acting against a green screen. The shots from space look really, really cool too. And they do a lot with artificial gravity, and there's a lot of they do a lot with wires, a lot with certain effects that make the zero G look very believable. And so and there's a lot of really great artwork in it as well. So I don't know how they managed to do all of this on a really great budget. It's definitely not Game of Thrones budget. There's no dragon, coming out of, the ice or anything, but it's definitely a very, very beautifully done show. And it's I think for a lot of people, that's one of the big draws to the show, is just how good it looks.
Overall, you seem pretty glowing about it.
Yeah, so I just want to mention a couple of other things that I thought worked really well for this show. The pacing is really good. There wasn't a point during the 10 episodes for the first season that I felt like it lagged or that it dragged at all. They do a really good job of balancing exposition with character development. The character development is so good in this show. All of the characters are interesting. None of them are really good or really evil. They're all very complicated and they have very complex motivations. But for the most part, all of the characters, you understand them, you understand where they're coming from. And I think sometimes in sci-fi, there's this urge in dystopian sci-fi, there's this urge to make all the characters super hard and super badass, and they all have terrible histories. But these characters, even though they do have that, they come from a really difficult time and a really difficult place, they all show certain vulnerabilities throughout the series that make them really engageable and really understandable as characters. Thomas Jane and Shora Agdashlu are standout performances. They both do a great job. If you have ever played any sci-fi video game, you have heard Shorey Ashdashlu's voice. She has one of the most recognizable voices in video games. I think you said she was in 24 as well. Yes. Yeah, so she has a pretty long TV career, and I was very excited to see that she was in this. And Thomas Jane as well. I don't know how many of you are familiar with his body of work, but he does a very good job in this. But yeah, there's a little, the world building's really great. There's a little cyberpunk in it. There's a little Mormonism in it, weirdly.
There's Mormonism in all sci-fi. Have you not seen Battlestar Galactica?
There's intrigue. There's a lot of politics. There's like you were saying, there's a lot of political stuff. There's a lot of social stuff. There's space battles. Anything you could possibly want out of sci-fi, they definitely have it.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will hopefully be giving this a try sometime soon.
Yep, highly recommend. Would recommend for pretty much almost anyone, even if you're not a huge sci-fi fan. All right, Stan, tell me about what you did. What monkey did you tackle?
I tackled Alan Wake. Alan Wake is a video game, came out. It's an Xbox 360. It was an exclusive. It's made its way to PC, I believe, but it's by Remedy and Microsoft, so they have their hands on it as well. Alan Wake is a crime fiction author who is suffering from writer's block. It's a tale as old as time. His wife convinces him to go to a small town to, kind of flush his system out so he can find inspiration and maybe start writing again.
You write what you know about, right?
Right. Again, this is not a Stephen King property at all, but it very much sounds like it. His wife goes missing very, very quickly, and so there's a lot of plot threads that kind of get woven in here. There is, in very Stephen King terms, a capital D, dark, capital P presence around this small town. There's also a psychiatric institute for troubled artists. And you can take that for what you will.
Are artists more likely to be troubled, do you think? Is that what this...
It's rehab, Tessa. It's Stephen King writing in his coke problem.
So, there's also plot threads about local color. There's a big town festival that's about to happen. There's the local police and the feds. So there are some law enforcement threads in there. And of course, Alan Wake has the most annoying agent ever in the history of ever. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. There's a lot of narrative threads going on here. But basically, the question in Alan Wake is another question that we've seen a lot in pop culture before. Is this supernatural or is this insanity?
The question. Isn't that the question of a lot of pop culture?
I think so.
Supernatural or insanity?
Yeah.
So what drew you to the game? Why play it now?
So Alan Wake is something that I have seen talked about online. I've heard people play it, and just everybody seems to really have nice things to say about this game for, like I said, the last decade. I thought I had missed my chance. It was removed for a while in 2017. You couldn't buy it at the online store due to music licensing issues. You see, back in the day, back before everything was digital and online, games, TVs, movies, well, not movies, but TV shows and apparently games had not figured out that they needed to have eventualities in place contractually for music. So you see a lot of TV shows on Netflix that don't have the original music on episodes.
Skins, I'm looking at you. Skins.
Yeah. The early couple of seasons of How I Met Your Mother have some of that. But anyway, so, when I saw it was back, I was very happy to get a hold of it. The reason I played it most recently, Tessa played Control, and
I had no idea about any of this, by the way, when I was playing Control. Control just looked like a good game to play.
And it was,
And
correct?
I loved it.
Okay. So Control is published by Remedy. It's their latest game. Remedy has been slowly building a connected universe of their games. I played Max Payne 1 and 2 when they came out, which were made with Remedy and Rockstar. So Alan Wake is actually a game that was produced after Max Payne as an open world idea. It had there's a spin-off, but there was a canceled sequel that eventually became another game, Quantum Break, and now Control is the latest in line, and they're all having a shared universe. So
they're all in the same universe, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, Tessa found Easter eggs to Alan Wake in Control. There are Easter eggs for Max Payne in Alan Wake, I can say that much. One of the really cool things about Alan Wake is it's divided into 6 episodes, like a television show. In fact, episode 2 of Alan Wake starts with Previously on Alan Wake. And each one has its own credits and song at the credits. It's very much emulating a TV show. They're meant to be played. Each episode is meant to be played nonstop, depending on your style of play. It took me about 3 hours. I'm a very methodical search for things kind of player, so that's about how long it took me. And I'll say one other thing about what drew me to this game. And that is, it does remind me in many ways of Lost. And just for a second, I'd like to break in here and do the podcast within a podcast that I'd like to call Has Tessa Watched Lost Yet? On this episode of Has Tessa Watched Lost Yet?
No.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Has Tessa Watched Lost Yet? Lost is my favorite TV show ever. It is the monkey of all monkeys on Tessa's back because I am the worst about trying to get her to watch it.
He really is. He brings it up probably at least 3 times a week.
So if you have a property for me that is described as Lost-like, I will hate myself for doing it, but I will absolutely consume it.
So one of the things, this might reveal too much about our personal life, but one of the things that we like to do when we're both playing video games, but they're not the same video game, is to start a voice chat and talk to each other while we're playing video games. I know, gross. But he absolutely refused to do that with me while playing Alan Wake because he didn't want me to hear him jump whenever there was a jump scare. So, are there a lot of jump scares in Alan Wake? Would you recommend this for someone who is perhaps sensitive to jump scares like I am?
Well, you should absolutely play it anyway. It is very much in the horror genre. In terms of immersion, it is a 10-year-old game for the Xbox 360. It's good quality for what was on deck in 2010, but you can't really immerse yourself in it as much as you could something that was for this current gen of video games. The other thing, and just my gameplay style is I am most of the time an achievement hunter, 100%er. You take a game where you have to do multiple playthroughs and lots of stuff, I will not. I'll just leave it behind. But if it is not easily achievable, but if it is achievable, I will try to do it. Alan Wake has collectibles. A practice I do at this point wish we could end in video games altogether. So that takes a little bit away from the plot, is hunting for these things. You do have to go through the game more than twice. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do that or not. I don't know. I guess I probably will because I know I can. But that's why I don't get to a lot of video games, because I spend so much time on them. And of course I'm on Assassin's Creed number 18, so that slows me down as well.
So would you recommend this overall?
I would absolutely recommend this. This was a fun experience. I'm glad I finally got to it. It definitely makes me more excited to play Quantum Break, which we just picked up, and eventually Control. So definitely recommend. All right.
Is that it?
I think that's it. So tune in next week when we'll be joined by Steve Guntley of the Ultra 64 podcast. Indy will review the comic book series East of West, Tessa will discuss Beyoncé's visual album Lemonade, and I'll talk about Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th. So let's see, where can you find us? Tessa?
You can find me on Twitter at Swela Tessa. Swela is spelled Swehla, and you can find me on Letterboxd under the same name.
Andy?
You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Hebrews Pale Ale.
And you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Morris9 and on Letterboxd at ArchieLeech9. Find us on Twitter at Monkey Backlog. Email us at monkeyoffmybacklog@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about any of the stuff that we've talked about on the podcast.
And tell us about your backlog.
Yeah, recommendations.
Recommendations. We want to hear about what you guys are doing.
Our lists aren't long enough. They do not stretch all the way to the sun yet.
Our theme song, Hot Shot by Scott Holmes, can be found at scottholmesmusic.com.
Please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.